The defense is bringing the juice, and the newcomers are making a massive impact. Let's get it going.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. On today's episode, we're going to look at how the defensive newcomers are already impacting the defense, especially the DBs. Offensively, well, the offensive line is banged up. There's only 8 active guys for spring. That needs to be addressed. The depth of that position needs to be addressed as well, maybe through the portal. Who knows? Lastly, the Vandyboys need to go back to the drawing board. Getting swept in College Station, not the best, but it's okay. We still got a lot of season left to play. Well, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. Shout out to the everydayers. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So second scrimmage is in the books, right? And the defense has pretty much dominated up to this point. I think that's pretty common theme for most spring practices, though. But the newcomers are really, really, really making an impact. And this is something that Clark Lee loves, and he loves the energy, and he's starting to see some quality depth developing. So the defense is kicking into high gear, and the newcomers are the ones making the impact. That's for sure. So when you look at the newcomers, okay. So let's start. Let's start with who's bringing the most juice. And Clark Lee loves juice. He needs juice. He loves energy. He's got to have it. After seeing him look like a cyborg on the sidelines that didn't show any human emotion, it's great to see now that he's running the defense, he's got those guys amped up a little bit. And Colby Taylor seems to be the guy that's doing that. I mean, the 6'4" corner transfer from Wyoming is talking the talk, and apparently he's starting to walk the walk as well. I mean, he's having some really good matchups with these receivers. He's got some good him and Bryce Cowan have some good friendly banter going on, some friendly trash talk going on with the offense. I mean, those guys are starting to kind of really, really gel and really kind of get in the groove of things, right? And so that's really good when you have guys like that can kind of back up what they're doing, and those guys making plays over there, those guys bringing the energy, gets those front 7 guys hyped up. So you need somebody like that. And it's usually a cornerback that does that, and it's something that's desperately needed on the defense, because watching that defense last year, it just kind of seemed like they were just out there, right? They were just out there playing, and they didn't have any energy. I mean, they would get excited every once in a while. They make a big play, but you just didn't see it. And maybe as the season wore on, I mean, going 2-10 does have its effects on you, but it just didn't seem like anybody really wanted to kind of try to lift the rest of the guys out of it. It just kind of seemed like they were just trying to get through the string, and Clark Lee was just trying to hold on for dear life, and didn't seem like he really knew what to do from the CEO standpoint. And it just seemed like they were just kind of in disarray. This year, it seems like the defense has a purpose. They have an identity, and they're starting to build some quality depth. And when you can look over there, and they have someone coming, Marlon Jones from Eastern Washington, who's also going to be in the mix over there at corner. He's another newcomer that I think is going to make he was all conference in the FCS last year and all Big Sky. And he's somebody that can also come in and make an immediate impact in the secondary. And that's something they're going to need. So when you're scheming against other teams, when you're looking at, your first game against Virginia Tech, who returns a ton of starters, they're going to need that. They're going to need that high energy. They're going to need big plays. They're going to need guys to be in position and be able to communicate, be able to trust each other, and be excited for each other when they make a play. And Langston Patterson and CJ Taylor were not involved in the second scrimmage, and they really haven't been much involved throughout this spring, they've been kind of banged up or just being, kind of, elsewhere. But, they're going to have a massive impact when it comes down to this season. I mean, you add some of these guys to those two key pieces, and now the burden of trying to have to carry the team is off of them, and they can kind of relax and do what they do. Also in the secondary, I think when you have three really good safety prospects, CJ Taylor is one of them. But I think when you look at Randon Fontenette, he's somebody that I love, especially down near the box, especially in the run game, especially you can get creative with him as I guess you call it a razor, nickel, star. Defense, different coaches, different defense coordinators have different names for that position. But Randon Fontenette fits the bill there because he can really come down. Like he was at TCU. He's a hitter. He comes down and just he thumps you, he makes contact, and he makes sure that things stop dead in their tracks. And so he's somebody that he's a piece that you can kind of be creative with. You can blitz him off the edge. You can rob him over the middle. You can have him play the intermediate middle of the field. So you could have like that stacked one high safety look possibly and scrape your linebackers to see gap, and you have Randon Fontenette kind of play the cylinder down and then kind of rob that intermediate 12 to 15 yard range in the middle of the field. That's also good. You have he has the ability to come down as like a fifth linebacker if need be, and he's big enough and physical enough to play that role. He's athletic enough to be able to get out there and cover a slot guy. He can play the flats in the zone. I mean, he can do a lot of different things. But the most important thing that he brings to the table, and in this league, it's paramount, right? It's one thing to do it in the Big 12. It's completely another thing to do it in the SEC. Texas and Oklahoma are about to find that out too. But you have to be physical and you have to hit at the point of attack, and you have to be a thumper in the run game in order for you to be successful. In order for your defense to be successful, you've got to have guys like that fit kind of that perimeter run, because things are going, with the jet reads and the outside stretch zones that are becoming the wide zones that are becoming popular thanks to the 49ers. You're starting to see kind of those edge run guys, your outside linebackers, your star positions, your scraping linebackers, your defensive ends, your 4 techniques or 5 techniques or whatever. Those guys that play the edge, those are starting to become the most important point of attack people. And then your inside linebackers and your defensive tackles are there to kind of clean up the cutback lanes. And then your free safety can also run as well. So it's going to be something that is exciting for Clark Lee in this defense to see him kind of really develop there too. Talking about newcomers, I'm not just talking about transfer portal guys. Dante Carter is an early enrollee from San Antonio, and he's balling out. Let's just put it that way. I mean, he's balling out. He's flying all over the place. I think he's going to be somebody, free safety, deep free safety. CJ Taylor and Randon Fontenette, my prediction is those guys are going to play, closer to the box, or like Fontenette plays down in the box, and Taylor and Dante Carter will play the two high look if they go that route. But I think Dante Carter is good enough that where they could go cover one and have him as the deep safety. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time as a freshman, not just special teams. But I mean, his skill set, he's athletic, he could run, he can cover, he's somebody that can get down in the slot. Let's say you go to a man look and you need somebody really athletic to cover a really good slot receiver. Like let's say Texas comes to town and they have a really good slot receiver. He's somebody that can get down there and cover that. And you could throw Randon Fontenette back. You can do different things because you've got versatile guys that can cover and that can run, that can hit. Now, as a freshman, being a hitter down near the box, I don't know that you want to make a living out of that just yet, because he hasn't really had a chance to fully develop in the strength and conditioning program. I mean, he could probably do it if called upon, but I'm not sure that that's his forte, and that's okay. that's why you have Rand Fontenette. That's why you have the veteran C.J. Taylor. Those guys can take the brunt of the run stopping and let Dante Carter kind of ease himself into that and do what he does best, and that's make plays and cover ground. So he's a prospect I'm extremely excited about, to come in as a high school freshman, to come in as a high school recruit, and to be able to make that kind of impact immediately. You don't really see that much, especially on defense, and especially at a position like safety. You don't really see that a ton. When you do see it, those guys are usually special. And I'm sure there's not many examples of guys that come in and make an immediate great impact. Like, there's some guys that come in, they'll make a play here or there, and they'll get burnt here or there or whatever. But like, one of the best that I can think of is Malachi Starks. He's somebody that first quarter made a massively good play, and against Oregon, against Bo Nix, picked him off in probably the most athletic way you could make an interception. Guy's going to be special, and I think Dante Carter has some of that ability. We'll see if he can really kind of flash that level. That's a lofty goal. I don't want to put that expectation on him just yet. That's not fair because he's just a freshman, but he's going to play a ton, right? And of course, I've been talking about the pass rush and things like that of Cordray Sindor, that kind of thing. But lastly, on the defense, you're going to see some good things out of the linebacking core. Going to kind of see how the depth plays out there with alongside Langston Patterson. But I think you're good there. The defensive line, there's going to be some guys that emerge eventually. Just don't know what those names are yet. But Simeon Boulware is somebody that I'm expecting as a newcomer he's making some progress. I don't know how much progress, so to speak. It's tough to tell with those guys, but I think he's somebody that can get in the rotation of a group that can be productive, will be productive by scheme, but you're not going to have a superstar, and one of those guys could emerge. So one side of the ball dominates. It means the other side of the ball is struggling, and I told you guys not to panic, and I still believe that, but I do think offensive line depth does need to be addressed because there's some potential issues there that if they're not addressed, they become bigger issues. But we'll talk about that here next. All right. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place, and I can attest to that. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses can get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. That's right. LinkedIn knows small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process even easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. Are you tired of all of that screaming on Fox Sports or ESPN going on your TV all day? Do you have to turn it down? Even like read the closed captioning, even the closed captioning is in all caps. Even that's screaming at you, right? Well, we have a free 24/7 streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. So, as I said, the offense, there's some good things, okay? And we talked about those good things, and those good things are still good things. All right, Quincy Skinner, Junior Sherrill, Hoskins. I think there's a lot of good things to consider, and I'm not just saying that because I could just say, oh well, everything's good and everything's all right, and this is that and this is this, but I'd be lying to you if I said everything was good, right? In the second scrimmage, it was a bit of a struggle, but you didn't have Cedric Alexander or AJ Newberry. They were on the shelf. You had some other things happening, but I think the biggest story, Nate Johnson had a really good day. It was his best day he's had. He's developing, right? He's starting to, maybe this 2-quarterback system thing is, and when I have Kurt Page on, I'll ask him about that, but maybe that's a possibility. However, that's the good news. The bad news is there's only 8 offensive linemen active. You got some guys that are beat up, and that's not good. Gage Pitchford, he's been out for the whole spring. He started 7 games last year. He played in all 12, and he played right guard. He's somebody that is severely missed. His leadership is missed in the spring. He's somebody that will presumably be healthy and be fine for fall camp. He's just out for the spring, and so you're kind of getting a not clear picture there. Jake Ketchcheck is medically retiring from football. That's not good. That's another hit, right? He's medically retired, so maybe you need to address that in the portal when it opens up on Tuesday. So you have Gunnar Hansen. He returned. He's at left tackle. He was a 12-game starter. Okay, good. You got Delphin Xavier Castillo. He played 10 games as a starter at left guard. Okay, your left side's pretty solidified. Need a center. Well, incoming transfer guy Stephen Losoy has been taking snaps at center throughout this spring. He's had SEC starting experience, so that's good, albeit at right guard. But he's played some center at Mississippi State. I'm not surprised that he's playing center right now. Grayson Morgan, Leighton Nelson, Keva Wesley. Those are some names that are guys that are going to have to really kind of step in. Grayson Morgan, just like Gage Pitchford, has been out and banged up throughout this spring practice session. So he started 4 games at center last season, played in 7. Grayson Morgan, I don't know where he kind of fits into this mix, but we'll see when he gets healthy. Does that allow him to move back to center and put Losoya at one of the guard spots? Does that give you some depth, some things that you can move around? Leighton Nelson, you have to think is a guy that's going to factor in at right tackle. Keva Wesley, just haven't really been able to find a home for him between defensive line and offensive line. David Siegel, Marcel Sandoval, Cooper Starks, Anthony Miles, those guys are just, I don't know, right? And as a result, there's been some struggle, right? And there's a lot thrown at him, both physically and mentally. And, it's not fair to go ahead and declare this state of emergency in this group just, the offensive line sucks. We're going to be screwed. I mean, it's not great that they're struggling. I'm not saying that. It's not great that they only have 8 active offensive linemen. That's not great either. But I don't think it's a source for panic. I think they're going to address some needs. Obviously, Ketchcheck is somebody that, him retiring from football, medically retiring from football, threw a whole wrench into some things. So you just have to think that, the portal, there's going to be a lot of, running back depth, offensive line depth, defensive line depth built through the portal. So it's going to be, I think your starters are pretty much laid out. I think, Leighton Nelson is going to start at right tackle. I think you're going to have Gage Pitchford at right guard when he comes back healthy. You're going to have, I think it's going to be Grayson Morgan or Losoya at center, Castillo at left guard, and Gunnar Hansen at left tackle. So I think I think your starting group is pretty solidified, although like it's hard to kind of get some good rhythm when your starting right guard is in street clothes, watching and not getting reps in the new scheme. That makes it a little tough to kind of gauge, pun intended, maybe. That makes it harder to judge as far as like, okay, is this group a success? Is it not a success? I mean, what's happening here? So, it's a cause for concern. I'll be honest. But you do have some quality starting depth. I mean, I think returning 1, 2, I'll count Losoya as a returning starter, even though, because it's a new scheme, but he has started in this league. So I'll count his starting experience. Pitchford and maybe Leighton Nelson, who didn't start but rotated in. So we'll say 4 guys with starting experience coming back, significant starting experience coming back on this offensive line, and 1 guy that's had a lot of playing time. And then you have Grayson Morgan, who has a little bit of starting experience. Where does he factor in? So you got 6 guys right there, right off the bat that I think could play. But as far as like who's the other 4 or 5, like you need a whole second unit, and maybe in a little bit of a third. Like you need some guys, and so you just need some bodies there to be able to sustain. And so, like, what are you going to do there? And that's got to be the question that, as the portal opens, you look at some of the guys that are in the portal, and it'll be interesting to kind of see who drops into the portal, and that'll be definitely the thing to watch out for as far as the transfer portal goes. I mean, let's see. You have. Let me look at some offensive linemen here. Not many linemen are getting in the portal these days. You have Garrett Bishop, who entered the portal on April 10th. He's an interior lineman, so you need some tackles. He's coming in from UMass. I think it's getting some bodies and just getting some guys in here that can play. You have Jack Wiltie. You don't have Jack Wiltie. He's transferred from Colorado. He is enrolled at South Florida. You have Jacob Switzer coming in at quarterback. No, just kidding. You don't need a quarterback. You have, let's see, this is really good. This is really good podcasting here, by the way. When this thing opens up officially, I think you're going to be able to kind of see. I can filter it. There you go. You have Chad Lindbergh, who entered from Georgia on March 3rd. He still hasn't found a place. He's a senior with 1 year eligibility left. You have Quinn Murphy from Notre Dame that's in the portal. Been in the portal since February. You have that's pretty much it as far as offensive linemen go for quite some time. But you have there'll be some guys that enter, and there'll be some guys that you can have to kind of choose from, but you got to build depth, and that's got to be the most important thing. So keep an eye out on the portal, and we'll keep you updated as we go. So baseball, speaking of struggling, struggled mightily this weekend. We'll talk about that, what the impact of that is, and much more on the Vandyboys. All right, FanDuel. FanDuel. All right, it's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. If you're a Preds fan, if you got your tickets, that'll be fun. But baseball's in full swing as well, and FanDuel's your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's right, $150, win or lose. So bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. Maybe even the Masters if you bet on that. Hopefully, if you had Scotty Scheffler, hopefully it's a payday for you. But you can do this all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make your first bet and automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we talked a lot about football, the offensive line. Depth needs to be addressed. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day, by the way. Speaking of depth, this is quality depth of information. I've got a quality depth of listeners. I want to add to that depth and make sure that you listen and make this your first listen each and every day. And I appreciate you everydayers already. Spread the word. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers by football season. That's my goal. So let's make it happen. All right. And I got to the point that I've gotten to now. I couldn't do it without you every day or so. Thank you for all that you do. All right. So, Vandyboys. Yikes. You know that meme with Michael Scott where he's like, that meme, that's going to apply here with this series. 36-6 is your total score for the weekend. All right. Uncharacteristically, Vanderbilt just got torched, right? They got torched. Grayson Carter lasted 3 innings. The bullpen was stretched thin to all weekend. Get run ruled in game 1. Game 2, you get beat 9-0. Can't score any runs. It was a mess out there, and it just seemed like I don't think to be able to pinpoint one thing or another is almost impossible to do. So I'm gonna say it like this: it was just ugly all around. It started with Bryce Cunningham getting destroyed in game 1, and then game 2, it continued with Carter Holton and getting beat up as well, and it just kept going and going and going, kept snowballing. Bats couldn't get anything going. Pitching couldn't seem to get anything. It just seemed like, truthfully, we were overwhelmed by the atmosphere, and pitching all of a sudden, which has been brilliant all year long, couldn't throw good pitches. I know that seems silly to say. They couldn't find their spots. They left pitches out over the plate. They threw meat pretty much all game long. They just got slaughtered. They lost confidence. The bats just were nothing. The fans probably got under their skin, if I had to guess. I mean, it just seemed like the whole team was shook. And that's a playoff environment. That's a regional, super regional type environment. And you've got to be able to kind of put all that stuff in the rear view and go out there and perform. Pitchers, you have to hit your spots, right? And it got to a point where I think, and we talked about this on SEC After Dark, but I think one of the biggest epidemics in pitching is the fact that pitchers are more like throwers these days, right? They're up there and they're just rearing back, and it's like this unfolding lawn chair rolling down a hill, and the ball comes out in a straight line across the plate. And these hitters sit dead red and drive these fastballs. Like, they can drive a 98-mile-an-hour fastball 500 feet. They can do that. The ones that are successful, the pitchers that are successful, are the ones that, get this, they pitch, right? Watch Carter Holton's outings. Watch what he does. The lefties have found a way, because lefties, for whatever reason, they don't seem to throw as hard as the righties. The righties are just, their power. Everyone wants to be a power pitcher, and I think that's why arm injuries are going up, first of all. But everyone wants to be a power pitcher, and everyone wants to burn somebody down with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It's not going to happen. These guys sit on these and they learn how to hit them, and you're vastly ineffective. So you have to hit your spots. You have to put movement on the ball, and you have to keep these hitters guessing, right? You have to keep them off balance, off speed, breaking pitches, things that are outside the zone, things that are painting the corners, freeze them, jam them, make them hit things off the end of the bat, put it up under their chin occasionally, right? If you want to intimidate them, run one up by their chin and then go low and away on the next one and see them dive out of the way. It's playing mind games like that. It's really kind of just, you're up there and it's a chess match, and you have to treat it that way. It's not a mano a mano, like, oh, I'm going to blow this thing by you. I'm better than you. You can't touch this. Bing. You hear the ping, and then, the dreaded, that look is not good. When you do that as a pitcher, that ball's out of the yard, and it's not a good look. So Vandy just needs to lick the wounds. Still plenty of baseball left. Okay. I'm not worried. Still plenty of baseball left. They can get it back this week and get back in the groove of things. Just make a regional and just keep working on being consistently good pitchers and hitters. But that's going to do it for us here on the Locked On Vandy podcast. I've gone way over time. But I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you everydayers for being everydayers. And let's continue to grow this thing each and every day. Let's be the best Vandy podcast out there. And we'll make sure that happens. So with that, I hope you have a great week. And we'll see you back here tomorrow. And as always, you know the drill. Anchor down.